Well, at this time, I want to welcome our viewers that are watching online for our Accelerated Ministers Training. We welcome you here in the name of the Lord. Want to say a special thank you to Pastor Milton Poole, his wife Rhonda, his staff here, Weston Berry, who is helping us with sound tech and coffee making, well, along with Rose's help. We appreciate that. Where would we be without people helping us? That a preach, guys and gals. We're a team together, but we want to say a special thanks to the first Humble family, Pastor Milton Poole and Rhonda Weston, for helping us. We make sure that our ringers are off of our phones and iPads. That will help be a little bit less distractions. Those that are watching online or watching it recorded on our website will need to fill out a one-page summary. And it can be 18 font, double space. It doesn't have to be super detailed. We just need to know that you watched the sessions. And as you work toward ordination, there needs to be 12 hours of these sessions completed. It doesn't have to be all done at certified or licensed. I encourage people to go ahead and get them all done, but there will be 12 hours of sessions required to receive ordination if you did not attend one of our four-year Assembly of God universities. Our first session is by Pastor Jim Kautz. Jim and Melissa, they're the lead pastors at First Assembly of God in Texas City. And his session is going to be called Growing an Older Congregation, because we have congregations that need to be planted, we have new congregation needs, and then we have the need of taking congregations that are already there and just continuing to love them and help them transition to continue to reach their communities and to be living, vibrant churches. And this is what Jim and Melissa have done. This last year, our superintendent, Pastor Tim Barker, has asked Jim to help oversee an area of revitalization in our churches, to help churches that are in that place. They are older congregations, but they need to be revitalized and encouraged. And so that's what Pastor Jim is going to be helping us with. So at this time, let's give Pastor Jim Kautz a hand. God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you, brother. All right, thank you. Glad I could come hang with you guys this morning and spend some time here. Appreciate Pastor Don and appreciate AMT and what it does for you guys and district leadership, Pastor Tim. We serve a great district, amen. So it's good to be here. As Pastor Don said, my wife Melissa and I serve at First Assembly of God in Texas City. And we've been there about 9 years now. We took it right after Hurricane Ike, and it's been some challenges, but God has seen us through. We certainly enjoy pastoring, and then this new role in the district. It's great. We're learning a lot. So any way we can be of service to you, please let us know. When I received the subject, how to grow an older congregation, right away my mind technically went to an age group. I thought, okay, how to grow an older congregation, but then there's aspects like he said, a congregation that has grown with you as you've been there. I think of my father often because my dad's been at his church. He pastored Assembly of God Church in Fort Lauderdale, and he's been there 45 years. And so he's pastoring, the grandchildren now were grandchildren when he got there are now up in age. And so you see that as time progresses. And so I kind of am going to mix the two a little bit this morning, dealing with age, but also dealing with a congregation that has maybe grown with you as you've been there and whatever your ministry is. So we're going to have a little fun this morning and just share some common sense points on how to deal with that. Just a quick little fun exercise. If you consider yourself, let me ask you this. If you feel young this morning, raise your hand. If you feel like you're pretty young, right? Yeah, everybody, right? Let's try this one. I know the coffee's not ready yet, but if you feel old this morning, raise your hand. See, nobody, right? Nobody wants to admit or feel like they're of older age or have been, in a congregation. I'll have some people in our church say, I've been here before the paint was on the walls or before the steel was erected. You might have heard that. And then you'll get some that come up to you, I've been here long before you, so be careful what you do because I'll change it back, right? I mean, we all face those different things. So really it's about relating to people, not just with if they've been with your congregation a long time, maybe you were a church plant, maybe you're a new ministry, or maybe you walked into a church revitalization. And now you're having to grow. You're going to deal with groups that are of the older generation, and you're also going to deal with groups that have been there and feel like, I've got ownership of this place. I've been here longer than the 10 pastors before you, and I'm going to stick around whatever you decide to do. And so we're going to look at kind of both aspects this morning and learn some things. But the first thing I want to throw out there I think is really important. Regardless of whatever type of ministry you're doing, missions, college ministry, youth ministry, young adults, whatever it may be, one of the most important things we need to remember is our ministries need representations from all generations. It's very important that our older generation understands that we have younger generations encouraging them, loving them, praying for them, seeking after them, and helping them. It's also important that our older generation is getting behind our younger generation in their ministries and what they're doing. Loving them, pouring into them, encouraging them, giving them wisdom, engaging them, and all in between, all age groups. Same thing with older congregants who have been in your church maybe a really long time. It's easy for them to say, well, I've seen it done 20 times, it's never worked that way before, and this guy thinks he's going to come in and do something different. These people need to realize they need to encourage those trying new things, especially new technology, new ways to do things. And so it's really important. When that happens, we create an atmosphere for the family of God to come together. Now, sure, you're going to have your separate times. Your youth are going to want to have their youth time, and rightfully so. Your young adults are going to have their young adult time. Your adults are going to want to have their adult time. Your seniors are going to want to have their senior time, and all in between. And those are important. But when we come together as a family of God, it works really great because it shows unity within the body. When we're able to come together, and all age groups, even though they have their different styles and different means, and you have your people who've been in your church forever, and you have your new people that are coming to your church, they need to all intertwine. It's kind of like that Thanksgiving dinner scenario where everybody gathers together at the table, but then after dinner, there's everybody doing different things, and you can really see the age group breakdown there. Grandpa's going to go and probably take a nap in the chair, right? Dad's going to maybe go watch football after Thanksgiving meal. The youngers are going to go outside or get on iPhones or get on iPads and text their friends and say, well, what did you have for Thanksgiving? You had turkey? Oh, that's old school. Nobody has turkey anymore. You're supposed to have ham now, right? So there's going to be all different, but they all came together for that meal and had that time of unity together, and they all do their separate things. And so it's important that we carry that over into our churches when we talk about age groups, and we talk about older congregants, people who you started with, that you're seeing. Now, I will tell you, at our church, when we walked in, we had enough just to barely stay sovereign, and they were 65 and older. So at the time, we were in our early 30s. And we walk in, and they're just loving on us and excited that somebody's willing to come and do something. But it was kind of different because I'm like, all right, how can I really make these people do the things that I feel God's wanting us to do and challenge them? And we were kind of like their kids. And so they respect us as their pastors, but we were kind of like their kids. So over the last 9 years, as the church has grown and God's enabled us to do so many things, I have some of those core group left. And to be honest with you, the reason I don't have all of them is some have passed away and some are homebound. They just can't make it to church anymore. But it's neat to see through their eyes what God has done and brought in all different kinds of age groups and brought in new congregants to the church and brought in people who, we still have some who've been there long before I was there. But now you have new ones, and so it's really neat. So just a few points this morning in regards to not just a church that's going through phases of growing and getting older as an older church, but also in regards to age as well. Verse I'll throw out, Matthew 6:21, it says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." And it's something that we all need to remember. In regards to age, all right, now I know nobody likes to talk about age, just as we did our little example. Nobody here wanted to say they felt like they were old, right? Nobody wants to ever admit that. But I believe it's fair to say that our older generations are a treasure. They really are a treasure. They're the ones that laid the foundation for America. They're the ones that kept freedom alive at times when it was under attack. They're the survivors of droughts and famines and storms and changes in technology and the Great Depression. They have a wealth of wisdom and knowledge. And so some of your older congregants are going to come with a different perspective than some of the newer generation that's coming into the churches. They're the grandpas, the grandmas, the great-grandmas, the great-grandpas. They've carried on a legacy that they're still carrying on today. So I really think they're a true treasure in our older congregants. And the same thing on the aspect of being an older church. You know, our church building we're in was built in 1962, and it's undergone a lot of changes since then. But we still appreciate the foundation that the church was set on. We're still on that same foundation. Now, the colors have changed, the technology has changed, the seating has changed, the decor has changed, but the foundations of that church have not changed. And so you have to remember that even as we see our age groups change and our church decor changes, the physical structure of the foundation that we were based on doesn't change. And that could be said the same when your foundation is in Jesus Christ. The toppings of the pizza might change. I mean, pepperoni used to be like number one. Now what everybody's into, like basil and spinach and artichokes and, right. Just give me some pepperoni, okay? Right? Everybody's getting all fancy foo-foo on their pizzas. But the toppings can change, but the pizza stays the same. The biblical principles that we stand for stay the same. So when we go forward, just a few, really 6 points this morning. Very simple. How do we grow an older congregation in regards to age? And how do we grow an older congregation in regards to our churches and as they age as well, and our ministries age? Because a lot of you here, you may be planning a church, going into missions, starting something from scratch, so it's going to be brand new. Or you may go into a church that's under revitalization and you're taking on years that have been there before you. So there's all different levels. So the first thing we need to do when you're walking into a church or you're dealing with the older generation is engage them. All right, engage the folks that you're going to be ministering to. We all like to be spoken to. When you came in this morning, it was comforting for you to have somebody come up and say, "Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. There's donuts in the back, but bad news, the coffee won't be ready for an hour," right? But you like to be spoken to. You like to notice. You like to hear that. Now that you know the coffee won't be ready, you're not as, "Where's the coffee? What's going on? Why is there a problem with the coffee?" When you go somewhere, you like to be spoken to. And the same thing with us. We need to speak to people. When you don't get spoken to, it kind of makes you feel kind of crummy. You're kind of like, all right, this is a cold atmosphere. Nobody's welcoming. Nobody's talking to me. And we need to encourage our older congregants, our older generations to do the same exact thing. By approaching them, we need to approach them and make them feel welcome. We need to approach new people that come into our church and make them feel welcome, and we need to approach the older generation that may be in our church and even the new ones that come in and make them feel welcome. Take time to ask how they're doing. "Hey, how was your day?" Even when you're outside of your church. Go up to people in the store. "Hey, how are you doing? How's it going?" I know you may not be outspoken when you're not in the pulpit, but it's good to be outspoken sometimes and go up to people and start a conversation, especially with the older generation. They love to tell stories and talk about all that they've been through, and you can learn so much from them. So you will come to find out that some people just want to come in and they want to sit quietly, but I guarantee you that everybody loves to be spoken to. So whether your church is a new church plant, you're growing a church, you're revitalizing a church, doesn't matter. Speak, engage folks, and that's just really a common sense point number one. Point number two, another common sense kind of point, is include folks. Include them, all right? Just like we like to be spoken to, we like to be included. I know some of you right now still have the haunting memories of not being picked for the kickball team back in high school. You're kind of like, "Oh man, I'm still having a hard time getting over that one. I got to pray through again." But there are some of us, when we don't get picked or feel included, it bothers us. So same thing with our churches. A lot of times we'll go into a church that's been established for a long time, and we're the new pastor. We walk in, and you're like, "Well, it's my way or the highway. I don't care what anybody around here thinks." But, that approach can sometimes be dangerous. Now, we need to try to include people until you learn their talents and their abilities, and are they there for the right reasons and causing good in the unity of the body of Christ. So we need to give everybody an opportunity to just be a part and do something. And in regards to the age bracket, same thing. The older generation loves to be a part. Now, they may have some physical limitations that will limit them on certain things, but let them be a part. Let them help. Let them do things. Let them feel a part. We had one lady in our church. She was homebound, and all she could do was knit. And so she would knit little crosses. And then we would take those, and when we went on mission trips, we would hand those out, and they were a huge success with people receiving them. And so that's what she could do. So everybody plays a part in the ministry. no matter whether they're new to your church, they're middle, maybe they've been there 5-10 years, or they've been there long before you got there. All right, so they play. So yes, include them and try to include as many people as you can. Look, ministry's tough. It's a lot of work. So the more people you can get on your team to help you, the easier it's going to be. We've kind of entered a phase in our church where we're training up more people and kind of relinquishing ourselves from things. And it's really neat to see people grow. And we're at that point now where we've built people who are spiritually ready to do some things that maybe they weren't ready 5 years ago for. But now they're ready. And so it's neat to see that generation come up and do things. The next one, another simple point really, is understand them. Understand the folks that are coming in to your church for the first time. Understand the ones that have been there long before you got there. And in the age bracket, same thing. Understand the older generation as well. Ministry is learning about people, right? When missionaries go to the field, what's one of the first things they do? They go to language classes. They learn about the culture. They decide to do research. Same thing with us. If you're planning a church, you learn about the demographics of the area you're planning a church in. You learn about, what's happening, what's going on in this town, where are the neighborhoods, where's the church best place for a meeting place for the church. Same thing with established churches. Who was here before I got here? And when we walked into First Assembly, of course, I heard every story of everything that happened and different versions of it 40 different times, right? And so you had to pick out, all right, is that actually true? Did that really happen? Did that person really beat up the other person 40 years ago because they borrowed the lawnmower and they weren't... you hear all kinds of crazy stories of different things. And so you need to listen to those stories and then start picking them apart. Which ones are ones that I'm going to use and which ones do I just need to put in the back closet and say that person's they're a little off this morning. And so it's just neat to listen to them and understand them. If you have a church or ministry that's mainly an older generation, a barbecue in the middle of summer on a hot July day is probably not going to be something they're going to want to go to. Take in consideration their thoughts and feelings on that. Some of your younger generation may want to do that. So have maybe the option of two, where you can sit inside or outside, if that's something that you're to do. So there's some things there you can do. Think about the changes in just a 100-year span. Right, in a 100-year span, we've had changes in technology. Here we are, live streaming to whoever wants to watch. That's just crazy, right? Changes in technology. Think about the church. Think about how the church has changed. We started with the reds when I was a kid. Bright red was a popular color. Then you went to the dark greens. Then you went to the maroons and the mauves and the flowers everywhere, right? And then you went to the wood patterns and more of the browns. And now we're leaning into the grays. It just changes. So for the older generation or for congregants who have been a part of your ministry for a long time, they're going to see a lot of changes. And some of those changes are going to be scary to them. Doesn't mean you don't do them. If God's asking you to do something, do it. Change it. But understand that when they walk in and they're used to a white wall building and you suddenly, paint it brown, or there may be some complaints in your office on Monday morning. Why did you change the color? And to you may think, that is a really dumb complaint. But to them, they've been there forever. They were there long before you got here. What gives you the right to change it, right? And so you have to present things in a way, make it encouraging for them. We have found that our church change is good. They love it when there's something going on, when there's something they're seeing happening, when there's a project, even if it's a small project. We're raising money to redo the floors in the fellowship hall. Oh, fantastic. They get behind that kind of stuff. They love it. So if you incorporate change as part of the pattern of the ministry, even your older generation will start to accept that, because it's hard on them. They've been through and seen so much. They don't understand Twittering and Facebook and, even some people here, live stream. What is live stream? I don't know what that is. You mean people can watch it on the other side of the world? It's hard for people to grasp change. And so if we can understand them and understand their concerns and how they handle things, then we can understand how we're best to serve that ministry, whatever it is, church planning, missions, pastoring a church that's been there a long time. So be aggressive in it, get to know their viewpoints, get to know, they may give you an idea and you just kind of put that one, I had one time somebody told me in my church, we should paint this wall pink. And I said, yeah, okay, that one's off the list, that's not going to happen, right? But you don't just... That's the dumbest idea I ever heard. Why would you even no? Oh yeah, okay, that's a good idea. We'll think about that. We'll give the Christian answer. We'll pray about that one, and we'll see what God tells us. Lord, please don't tell me to paint it pink. So there's some things you can do there. So in regards to our older congregants and even our older generation, respect them, appreciate them, take time to understand them. They just want to be understood and listened to. Number 4, allow them to connect. All right, here's where it can get kind of tricky, especially with those who have been in your church forever. They were there long before you got there, and then you have new ones. You have new ideas coming in. You have people that have never been in church before. They're walking into the building. All right, they may not know how to do things, how it goes, what communion's all about, how you do when you sing. And the people that have been there are watching, and they'll come up to you and say, "I don't understand why that person can't stand during singing." Well, I said, well, you don't know where they're coming from. They may not know that that's something you do. They may not have ever been in church. And so you have to allow the older congregants of your church, those who have been there for many years, and the new ones to interact with each other. Now, that can be dangerous sometimes. I get that. But for them to be able to pour some wisdom and guidance, it's like when you become a part of a club, sometimes you don't know the whole routine. You walk in somewhere and you're kind of like, well, what's the order? Even some of you this morning, you came in, it's maybe your first time to AMT. You're kind of like, where do we sit? What do we do? Is this assigned seating? I don't really know. It's new to you. So same thing there. Your older congregants are going to be like, this is my seat. Don't ever sit in it, even if you're a visitor. This is where I've sat for 25 years. I bought this chair. Don't anybody come sit in it. Well, no, we got to let anybody sit where they want, right? But you'll get that. You'll say, well, you're in my section. What do you mean you're in your section, right? It happens. I promise you. I don't wish it on you, but it happens. It happens. But make the opportunity for the older congregants to connect with the new ones. And also for the younger generations to connect with the older generations. It's vital and it's important. There will be so much wisdom going on in between the two, and the younger will learn from the older will learn from the younger. The congregants who have been there forever will learn from the newer congregants, and the new congregants will learn from the old. Because the ones who have been in your church for 25 years don't understand the pressure of a new person coming into church. They've been there 25 years. They know the routine. They know what's going to go on. They know how communion's served. I remember one time we had a lady in the church. She gave us, she had a farm out in the country, and she had fresh grape juice. And she said, all right, I want to give fresh grape juice for communion this Sunday. I said, okay. Well, bless her heart, she didn't realize it sat around for a little while. She just kind of forgot the date on it. So we served it up. But right away, I could tell people noticed that the color was different. They go to grab communion, and they're like, this isn't the normal dark grape juice. But they were a good group. That Sunday, they went with it. And I promise you, I had a real hard time. The Holy Spirit helped me through it. But I said, now, let's drink for the body, the juice that represents the blood. We drank it, and afterward there were gasps, and oh man, it was awful, right? But you know what? In her mind, she was doing a good thing. She didn't know. But bless her heart, no, we didn't go running up to her. How could you serve us aged old grape juice? Do you know what that means? That's some nasty stuff, right? No, everybody just went with it. So there's going to be things that you got to just use wisdom on, but let them get together. We used to have dinner on the grounds, right? That's an old term. Or church fellowships, we still do that. Some churches don't have kitchens anymore. It depends on what you're doing. But have a time where people can get together. It's important. Where they can engage and connect with each other. It'll strengthen your ministry. Even if it's brand new, or even if you've got longevity there, it'll strengthen your ministry. There may be some things you gotta take care of. Unfortunately, when people get together, sometimes it can cause some issues. But that's just dealing with people, and you're gonna find that. Number 5, visit. It is very important in our ministries that we're visiting people outside Sundays and Wednesdays whenever our schedules are. It's easy to just get in a routine and see everybody on Sunday and Wednesday, but people really enjoy when you go and visit them. All right, your older congregants who have been with you forever. If you don't, they kind of feel like they're part of a special club. Well, we voted you in. All these new people, they're just new, but we're the ones that got you here, right? They're like they sit on some kind of, pyramid, like we're the loft here. Listen, I'm not trying to say give any more attention to one group of people, but visit everybody. Visit your older congregants. Visit your new ones. Visit those of an older generation. Visit those of a younger generation. Now, I understand visiting is completely different in today's world than it used to be. Back in the day, you could just show up at anybody's house unannounced, and they were probably ready for you with coffee and a cake, ready to go. Now, somebody knocks on my door, I'm like, well, who is it? What do they want? Do I need to get a gun? What's going on here? Why are they at my door, right? Did nobody call and said they were coming? It's just different generation. Back then, people, let's just go over something. Let's go to the preacher's house for lunch. Let's invite the preacher over for lunch. Let's not invite the preacher over. Now, people don't want to do that. So let's have the, right. Should have never painted that wall pink. Yeah, let's have him over for lunch. We'll give him a piece of our mind. Yeah. So it happens. But visiting is important. We know it's no-brainer. You visit people in the hospital, and you visit people in nursing homes, you visit people when they're sick. But aside from that, visit folks, the ones who've been with you forever, and the ones who are new to your church. In fact, we do a thing where somebody new will go to their house and drop off, a bag, and it has a welcome and some cookies in it. And even that, I've noticed that when we go to somebody's house, they're kind of like, oh man, we were just at that church one time. Why is he already here? Does he want money from me or something? Why is he coming? Oh, we just want to give you some cookies. You just want to give us some cookies? What's in these cookies? What are you trying to sell us? Or nothing. We just want to say we appreciate you coming, and here's some cookies. It really throws them off for a loop. It's just not in today's world. Unless you call ahead and say, hey, I'm bringing cookies. Oh, sure, come by, no problem. So anyway, so visit people. Like I said, even the older congregants, the new congregants, and when we talk generations, the older generation, the newer generation, they love that. And the last one this morning, obviously this one probably more in line with age breakdown. Be sensitive to the physical changes of your older congregants. As your church grows, as your ministry grows, there will be people with you that age. We don't like to talk about it, but it happens. There will be people in your church that once were helping you do projects and build things, and now 20 years later, if you're still there, they're not able to do those type of things. Their body has changed, their mobility has changed. I was a paramedic before I went into full-time ministry, and we took a class called GEMS, Geriatric Emergency Medicine. And that class enabled us to put on glasses and look through what it looks like somebody who has cataracts. It enabled us to put on different kinds of shoes that would help us see what it's like for an elderly person to have to walk and do different things that we take for granted that are so easy. It gave us perspective on hearing and different tests that we got to do it from their point of view. And it helped paramedics is when somebody of the older generation gets in your ambulance, you may ask them a question 5 times and you go, well, they must be altered mental status because they're not answering. No, they just can't hear you. Their mental status is great. They just can't, what you're saying to them doesn't make sense. Your syllables, your frequency, they just can't get. So as your church grows with you, as your ministry goes with you, if you stick around a while, you will see some of the folks in your church get older. And so take that into consideration. As they change, help them go through those physical changes. Help them understand that they can still do something, that they're still a viable part of the ministry, that they're able to help. I have some that are now, again, was part of our original group that are at home, and we go see them, and they'll say, boy, it really stinks to get old. One lady I go visit every month, she says, I never thought I'd get like this. And, we just have to encourage her, but I say, you still are vital to the family of God. You still are doing something, even though this is your chair, and you watch service on TV, and you can't make it out of the house. There's something you do. And so you know what she does? She calls up people, and she encourages them. That's her ministry, calling people. That's something she can do. So we all have something that we can do. Look, over time, our body's going to change, our hair is going to change, our memory's going to change, our immune system's going to change. I know, this is really exciting facts, right? You're like, great, thanks for setting us up this morning. Bring on that coffee, man. With all these changes, it's hard enough just to handle normal day in life, but when you start to see things, this year I'll turn 40. I don't know how to quite grasp that yet, right? Some of you are like 40, come on, man. But I was cool being in the 30s. In fact, I didn't like going to the 30s from the 20s. So we got some aches and pains and things that, happen as we get older. It's just part of life. It's all going to happen to us. So I guess what I'm trying to say is when you're taking on a ministry, whether it's new, whether it's old, you're going to have people of all different ages. They need to get together. You're going to have people that have been with you a while. You're going to have some people that are new to your ministry. And you're going to have some that's a category we don't like to talk about, some that have been with you for a while, that suddenly just say, I'm out. I don't want to be with you anymore. There's things going on in their life and you can't always explain it, why they abandon you. I remember being a kid, watching my dad, seeing some family that been in our church forever, great people, like, the ones you thought you could trust, abandon and become just, treat my dad horribly. I remember seeing my dad and mom cry and just go through the process. And I remember then saying, I'll never be a full-time pastor. There's no way I'm going to have to deal with that. That's horrible, right? Well, God had a plan, and I finally listened, so here I am. But we've gone through it. We've all gone through it. You might have gone through it. And if you haven't, you probably will. There'll come a time where somebody will hurt you. Somebody will do something. And sometimes you have to take consideration what they're going through. Remember, it's not a battle against what? Flesh and bones. It's a battle against spirit realm. And so there's a lot of people going through a lot of things. So back to Matthew 6:21, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So we're all striving to be the hands and feet of Jesus, whether we're in college ministry, young adults, youth, we're planning a church, we're going into a revitalized church, we're taking on a healthy church. Maybe a pastor's retiring and you're taking on a church that's already moving forward. And so whether it's dealing with older congregants, younger, brand new ones, older generation, or younger generation, figure out best ways to reach those people. You'll come up with, God will show you, He'll lead you and He'll guide you. He'll give you those little things and those words to say. When someone comes up and you're dealt with something, He'll give you that sweet spirit just to respond appropriately. So think about this. The foundations that were laid prior are the ones that we are able to do why we do today. Right? We're able to go and plant churches in areas because the foundations of those towns have built up and now there's more people. We're able to go in and take a church because somebody laid that foundation. I'm pastoring a church that was laid a foundation in 62 and even prior to that before the building in 33. So because of those giants of the faith, I'm able to continue the ministry in Texas City. So we need to be appreciative of our older congregants and as the church grows and our older generations. So just some simple, I'm pretty thankful for our pioneers of the faith. Amen. I'm thankful for those who have gone before us. And guys, the future is ours. As the Lord tarries, we can now take the mantle and we can progress in the things of the Lord and carry on. And if you're starting something new, then take the torch and run with it and let God use you this morning. Amen. Anybody have any questions, anything that my almost 40-year-old mind might have missed, that you have a comment or a point that you want to make? Anybody? Yes, ma'am. Hey, she says, keep teaching. Amen.
I'm 80. I just turned 80, and I praise the Lord, I'm 80.
Amen.
It's been a happy event for me. But don't neglect your older, even if you're in a wheelchair.
Amen.
This couple here have encouraged me a lot recently and picked me up. A lot of times somebody doesn't offer to pick me up. And for the first time in my life, I had to miss services. And I never missed before, so that hurt. And, turn around and try to offer to help somebody. It helps them and you too. So.
Amen. Amen.
And put the younger ones and the older ones together. Comes up with a good plan.
Amen. Amen. That is true. We had a gentleman in our church. He's gone home to be with the Lord now. But we had a fun water day, and we got a slip and slide. I'm going to tell you, he was 72. The first one down that water slide was him. And I mean, the youth were just like, wow, look at this, man. And so it's just, we all need to help one another, encourage one another, and so it's a great thing. Anybody else? Anything? They need coffee, Brother Don. I think they need coffee.
We just have one microphone. So stay up here just a minute as we talk about this. So what you're saying is that it's about relationship building.
Sure.
Couple things on how to build that relationship between the generations.
Okay, so that's it can be difficult at times, but basically kind of some of the points I went over. Put yourself in their shoes. Put yourself in how they might feel. When it may be difficult to not find a ride to church, help them to get to church. Sit and listen. You're going to hear stories over and over and over again. It's okay. It's okay. Just listen to the story. Laugh with it. Joke at it. Ask the questions that maybe you didn't ask before. Let them feel like you're listening. It's so easy for us to say, I've heard this story 10 times already. It's time for you to move on. No, just listen to them. They don't remember that they told you the story. And so that older generation. And your younger generation, when they come in and they're going, I don't understand why we sing. I don't understand what I'm supposed to wear to church. I don't understand how, what I'm supposed to do. Don't be so hard on them. They'll learn. They'll grow. And let your older congregants know that, hey, these are new people. They're not accustomed to go to church like you have been for the last 25 years. And so we have to kind of give them some leeway and show them some things and teach them, disciple them, right? That's a great word, disciple them. And so it just comes as part of the course. But building those relationships. I find that coffee over coffee builds a great relationship, especially with the older generation. There's a group of people in our town, older generation, meets at Whataburger. I'm telling you what, if you're a comedian and you need material, that's where you need to be every morning, sitting there listening to this group of guys, because it's no holds barred. I mean, it is, some things they'll say, I'm like, I don't even think we're allowed to say that in public. I don't even know where they came up with that. But it is a wealth of knowledge, because those are the foundation builders of the town. Those are the ones that, they're knocking the mayor, they're knocking everybody, but at the end of the day, they're just speaking their mind, right? And so it's just trying to build those relationships. Are you going to be perfect 100% of the time? No. But you just try, love people. I know it may seem simple, but just love people and encourage them.
Jim, when we were in college, one of the first things, and we didn't even go to a seminar to learn this. It was just kind of, I don't know who to blame it on. if it's something good, you can blame it on God. If it's bad, blame it on me, But we were going to an older church in Huntsville, had a cross section of ages, a pastor that loved the college student, and then that was reflected in the church family. And so I just began to greet some of the older people and hang out with them. They loved the college student. They couldn't do a lot of the things we did, but to get into their world, like you talked about. Mm-hmm. And I found out that this lady had a garden at her house, and I'm thinking, city boy, I'm thinking garden. No, she had like an acre garden. And so I volunteered. I said, she was talking about garden, it's too big, my kids are gone. I said, well, what do you need? Well, I need it tilled up. Well, that's not going to take very long. And so I just went over to her house, and I can't remember David and Gayla were there also. It's one of those roads close to the church somewhere, but there were some yards that had, probably 5 to 10 acres back up in those trees. And so I drove up, and oh, wow, this is a big place, And so this little lady, probably in her 90s, man, she gets out there and shows me how to crank up that tiller, and I'm going, we became close friends because I spent the day walking behind the tiller, tilling this acre garden, had the best time, and then Beth and I would go over there and eat. She gave us a handmade quilt for a wedding present, when we got married. It's just things, they're sitting there. You've got to engage them.
Amen. That's right. Yeah.
That's your job, to engage. And if you don't engage them, nothing's going to happen. And so I just encourage you in that. Don't cast aside our older congregations. Don't cast aside that older generation like Pastor Jim encourages to do. Love them. Is it going to be perfect? No, because that doesn't exist. There's not perfection in a church of all young people. Hello? Yeah. I love Chi Alpha, but there's not a perfect Chi Alpha. There's interpersonal stuff that happens. We call it drama. And the entire New Testament was written to churches with drama.
That's right.
That's what we do. We direct drama. But keep loving and keep serving. Keep serving. Let's give Pastor Jim a hand.
Appreciate you guys.